Hi, welcome to my video. Okay, so this is a compilation of, I think, how many videos? 19 videos from my TikTok. They're all on Mary Kay Letourneau. And so I did like one little series on her, and then I answered some comments, and then I did another little series. So you'll see that, then you see the comments. The video is not over there. Then there'll be a whole nother thing of videos on her, and then some more comments, just so you know the flow of the video. Have a good day. Mary Kay Letourneau has been back on the news circuit because she passed away in July from cancer. If you don't know who she is, the first thing to know about her is that she is a pedophile. So that is what I'm talking about in my video. And she, at the time, she was a teacher, she was married, she had 4 children, and then she starts abusing one of her 6th grade students. His name was Billy. So she gets arrested, and during sentencing, she actually gives birth to a child who was the child, Billy's child. So her 5th child, his first child, he was only 13 years old. So she goes to jail or prison March of 97, but she gets out in January of 98. I'm not exactly sure why, but like there's some plea agreement or part of her sentence got suspended. But part of that meant she was not meant to be around any children, including her own and including Billy. So Mary Kay Letourneau gets out of prison after serving less than a year from some plea agreement. I'm not exactly sure, but it's incredible that she's a pedophile. She's had a child with the 6th grader and she gets out. Well, she was only out for 2 weeks before she gets caught with Billy again. And she got pregnant again. And she had her 2nd child in prison and she served 7 years this time. So she gets out in 2005. He's only 22 and she had already served 7 years. Just shows how incredibly young he was. And they get married when she gets out. Ooh! I saw this interview where she's like not taking any accountability for anything she's done and she blames Billy for it all. And then of herself, she's like, yeah, I was an adult, but only by age. What? If you don't know who Mary Kay Letourneau is, parts 1 and 2 will get you caught up. Well, this week, Dr. Oz had Billy on his show, and one of the things he wanted to do was let's flip the script. So Mary Kay was in her 30s, and she was abusing you when you were in 6th grade. So now that you're in your 30s, what would you do if you found yourself attracted to a child? By the way, they got married, just by the way. The first thing he says is that he would seek help, and it's like, yeah, good answer. That's what you should do. But then he goes on to say, like, we all have our preferences. No, being attracted to a child is not a sexual preference. It's just not. And then he's like, you can't legislate morality. And I'm like, ooh. And he's like, you can't help who you fall in love with. And I know his context, so I'm like, ooh. But then I feel really bad for the guy and everything he went through. So the whole thing's just making me very conflicted.
You were the adult.
You can say that.
I am saying that.
I was by age.
And by maturity.
You maybe.
You were a teacher, Mary. You can't say I was immature.
But you don't know him.
No, but I don't need to know him in this discussion. He's the child. I'm talking about you.
Who was the boss? Who was the boss?
What?
Who was the boss back then?
You know, there was me pursuing you.
Who was the boss back then?
This is ridiculous.
No,
This is
who was?
ridiculous.
Who was? Just say.
All I knew was what I knew back then.
But who was the boss?
He was 13, Mary.
But who was the boss?
This is getting weird.
Who was the boss? Who?
I'm pursuing the relationship.
Who was the boss?
Well, I was the pursuer.
Yes.
Mary, even as you're
But-
hearing this now, come on, he was 13.
Doesn't matter.
It absolutely matters.
I did the
Yeah.
best I could.
I mean,
Flaw me, character flaw.
Let me flip it around. You're in your 30s now. Mary was in her 30s when she met you. If you were attracted to a minor, what would you do?
I'd probably go and seek some help. You know, I couldn't look at a 13-year-old and, be attracted to that because it's just not, it's not in my brain. It's nothing that I'm attracted to. I mean, we all have our preferences, and that's just not something that I would go towards. Can't really legislate morality, it's some of the things, you know, we fall in love unexpectedly with people that we never expected to fall in love with in a million years. I mean, I don't think she like said to herself when she was younger that, you know, she was going to fall in love with someone that was 20 years younger than her. And I never thought I was going to fall in love with somebody that was 20 years.
I don't think I've ever shared this before on TikTok, but I'm certified to teach K through 8. I'm not a teacher now, but that's actually what I went to college for. But I can get in, it's a long story. I can get into that another time. But the point I was trying to get to is with the Mary Kay Letourneau thing, I didn't even think about it as myself as a teacher because I student taught 5th grade and she was teaching 6th grade. So, you know, those kids are pretty close in age. And actually, my own personal experience is the little boys would hit on me all the time. There was not a single time, because Mary Kay's defense was, he was into me. No, there was not a single time I looked at a child and was like, oh yeah, that little boy's into me. I actually made rules, like I would only side hug the boys because they started daring each other to come like hug me and stuff. It was weird. The adult is the responsible one. Duh. Yes, this is a very good point to mention. And, okay, I'm getting sad already. Okay, I'm trying to look at this with a positive perspective. He took that first step. I believe he filed for separation in 2017. And so it's important that it was him making that step. So Mary Kay Letourneau passing away, that isn't forcing him to go into healing. You know what I mean? Because he took that step. And the thing that I was kind of feeling bummed out about is that Dr. Oz interview. I have commentary on it in part 3, and then I also share a clip of it. That was from this week. Well, it aired this week. So the things he was saying in there, you know, it's recent. And, well, you can't force someone to go into healing. That's his own personal journey, and she can never bother him again. So that's something positive.
Good morning. The reason I chose to talk about this was actually because of the Dr. Oz interview with Billy, but I didn't want to just give, I thought if I just did the video about Dr. Oz, there would be a lot of people who didn't know who Mary Kay Letourneau was. So if you see the caption on my videos, I think, I can't see it right now, but I think it just says like brief intro or something like that. It was just me skimming very quickly about Mary Kay just to bring people up to date for the Dr. Oz reference. So that's why I was talking about it. Also, whether she's dead or not, that's a silly reason not to talk about someone. Think about history, for example. Oh my gosh, that didn't even occur to me. Someone else mentioned it and I was like, oh, thank you. No, that was just a coincidence. That was just the shirt I was wearing that day, I promise. I'm not trying to send any subliminal messages. I had a lot of people comment this, so I did a little Googling. The movie is That's My Boy, and it has a very similar premise to the real-life Mary Kay Letourneau story. I haven't seen the movie, but the consensus seems to be that, yeah, the movie is based on their story. But the people who made the movie don't directly say that. For example, if you go to the wiki page, up here, that's me searching for Mary Kay. See, no results are found. However, Billy was interviewed about it, and he was actually pretty excited about the movie. This is a direct quote from him, and it's kind of sad. It's, we're talking about my life and a young boy banging his hot teacher. What's not to like about that? Variety seems to see it for what it is. They call it a shameless celebration of degenerate behavior. Yeah, because rape isn't funny, and when a woman does it, it's just as bad as when a man does it. Hi. Recently, I talked about Mary Kay Letourneau on my channel, and it wasn't really a deep dive. I was just kind of giving a brief explanation so that I could talk about something else. I was just giving context. Anyway, it created a lot of questions, and so what I wanted to try to do is answer those questions. So I'm going to do a series of videos, and these are the questions I'm going to answer. I hope I get to everybody's questions.
One, I heard people talking about her coming from a political family, so we'll do a video on that. Her relationship with Steve, her first husband, and those kids, where are they? I have my notes right here. More about her relationship with Beely. I found out I was saying that wrong. And then what happened to her 2 daughters. So if you don't know who she is, you can get caught up a little bit on parts 1 and 2, and there's a couple other videos. So let's get into it. I always learn so much stuff from the comments. So when I talked about Mary Kay Letourneau, the comments were like, yeah, her family has political connections. And when I looked into it, like, they're not kidding around. These are high up political connections. Let's start with her father. So her father's name was John G. Schmidt, and he was a Republican member of the United States House of Representatives. And he was also a California State Senate member as well. These things always branch out. When I went to look for pictures for him, I found this 10 most scandalous DC affairs, so that might be another thing to look into. This is Mary Kay's brother John P. Schmidt, and he was the deputy counsel to George Bush Sr. And this is her brother Joseph E. Schmidt, who was one of Donald Trump's foreign policy advisors in the 2016 election. And when looking for pictures of him, there might also be something to look into there. A lot of people were asking about Mary Kay Letourneau's first family. Believe it or not, that's Mary Kay Letourneau. I know it doesn't look like her, but it is. So this is Steve Letourneau, and they met at college, and many articles call them college sweethearts. But in different interviews, Mary Kay has said no, she was not in love with him, and she married him because her parents urged her to, and that kind of makes sense considering the well-to-do family she came from. So they get married, and they actually have a rocky relationship, and both of them had had extramarital affairs before she starts abusing Beely. Steve finds out about it because of love letters. That's what the article calls it. It's not a love letter when an adult is writing to a minor. Let's make that clear. He divorces Mary Kay. He gets custody of the 4 children. He moves them to Alaska. He's actually worked for Alaska Airlines for the last 30 years, and he just wants to move on with his life. Mary Kay Letourneau actually meets Beely when he's in 2nd grade, but the abuse starts when he's in 6th grade. She took him under her wing to help encourage his artistic talents, so he's coming over to her house and stuff, and he befriends her eldest son, who's only a 1.5 years difference in age to him. And Barbara Walters asked him about this relationship years later, and he says, it's an awkward feeling for sure to be close in age with someone who is your stepson. Yeah, I could see that. Before anyone found out about the abuse, the police actually caught Mary Kay and Beely in a minivan in the middle of the night down by the marina. Mary Kay's like, he's 18, which made them suspicious when they weren't even suspicious before. So they bring him down to the police station, call Beely's mom, and she's like, yeah, it's fine. Later, she said if she had known that Mary Kay had lied about his age, she wouldn't have been okay with that. Mary Kay got pregnant 2 months later. So a lot of people have been asking, what happened to the 2 children that Mary Kay Letourneau and Beely had together? Because he was just a little kid, and then she was sent to prison. So who was taking care of the kids? So let's look into that. Beely told a reporter, we made a plan. The only way to keep us together was to have a baby. So that baby would remind me of her. Oh my goodness. He was just a child. Oh my gosh, she took such advantage of him. So after Mary Kay's first pregnancy, she's sent to prison, but only for less than a year. When she gets out, the stipulation is you cannot be around any children, not even your own. But she breaks the rules and she goes and sees Beely. She gets pregnant again, and that's when she gets sent back to prison for the longer sentence. Beely's mom took custody of both Georgia and Audrey, who are adults now, but not their entire childhood. When Mary Kay Letourneau gives birth to the 2 children from Beely, she's not allowed to be around them or any children at all. But at some point, the judge must have changed his mind because they start allowing visitation with her children while she's in prison. Beely's mother took custody of her 2 grandchildren. Now, this next part in their later years, this is an assumption made by me because I had a difficult time finding this information. So this is kind of what I've inferred.
when Mary Kay gets out of prison, Vili had to go to the courts and get the restraining order dropped. But he was an adult at that point, so he was able to do that. Then they get married. Then at that point, I believe they started taking care of the daughters together. I want to re-emphasize, I had a really hard time finding when that transition happened exactly. Hi. Okay, due to time constraints, I wasn't able to give as much context as I would have liked. Oh, my bun's getting crazy. Anyway, so Mary Kay Letourneau, you know, she's taking Vili, which people told me, no, it's Vili, so I switched and said that, and now people are saying, no, it's Vili. So sorry if I'm saying it wrong. She takes him under wing for the artistic talents, right? But then her son befriends him. So I'm guessing the plan was for him to stay the night that night, which was why the mom didn't like freak out that he was there so late. That's the only thing that makes sense. And then given the information we know, yeah. So Mary Kay tells the police, my husband and I, we got in a fight, and so I wanted to take Vili out of the situation. So the mom, just thinking her son is staying the night, that's probably why she was okay with it. And if she had known Mary Kay had lied about the age, then that completely changed the situation in her eyes. Hi! I just received a series of comments that made me laugh out loud. And I live alone, so it was funny to me, so I want to share it. But before I share it, you have to promise, do not go after this person. Whether you agree with them or, well, if you disagree with them, please do not go to their page and give anybody hate. We can laugh in this specific video chain, please. Otherwise, I won't post stuff like this anymore. So the first comment, you can't tell the person's opinion. It just says, you know she died of cancer, speaking about Mary Kay Letourneau. And whatever. But then the next one was on my most recent videos. Grown-ups liking dolls are creepy. And then right after that, talk ill of the dead much? Back to Mary Kay Letourneau. Okay, so it's like, oh, she talked about American Girl doll. Creepy. Pedophile. Not creepy. Totally okay. What?
Okay, this is funny because it's quite literally why I made the video. It's because people were asking. So if you had seen part 1, you would see that these are all answers to questions. Each video was an answer to a question. I'm sorry, this cracked me up.